Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer, many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites, because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, March 2023. But this video, as I said, will be valid for the next 3 years for Saturn interpretations and the next 20 years for the Pluto interpretation, so you can save it in favorites to come back to it. The first important astrological event on the 7th of March is that Saturn is moving from your 5th house, where it spent the last 2.5 years, actually since April 2020. It's moving into your 6th house. And if you want to see how you fared with the lessons of Saturn in the 5th house, you can check the video for the next sign, Scorpio, where I speak about what Saturn in the 5th house brings, and you can listen to it understanding that you've already passed that. And if you learned those lessons, and how did you, and what was the evolutionary purpose of the experiences that you had with this transit. So to put things into perspective. But it's known that Saturn in the 5th house is a bit difficult position, because this is one of the houses of life force. So sometimes Saturn, when it's in the 5th house, can pinch the life force of a person and to be less energetic and so on. But it had its evolutionary purpose and goals. You can hear that in the video for Scorpio to figure out how you fulfill this evolutionary purpose. But Saturn is moving out of this house, so it can feel like a relief for many of you Libras, and especially to make you feel a bit more spontaneous, happier overall, because this is the 5th house, has been the house of enjoyment of life, and Saturn might have suppressed that or made it more regimented, more structured. Any kind of entertainments and pleasures might have to be more organized or less easier to access. And this life force that naturally flows through us, of creativity, of spontaneity, of confidence has been restricted, but Saturn is ending its move through the 5th house and moves on the 7th of March into your 6th house using whole sign house system. Of course, we can use another for those videos. And what will be the prerogatives and the most important lessons for the next 2.5, 3 years till 2025? Well, the 6th house is the house of order. And Saturn is a planet of order, so Saturn can feel quite comfortable there, and it can do some really good work. And actually, it's a very material, physical house, so there'll be a lot of focus starting from March onwards on matters of organizing your everyday life, and matters in regarding your career and work that Saturn would like to structurize, to make more efficient, more organized, to prioritize as activities. And sometimes people notice when Saturn enters the 6th house that they have a lot more work than normal, or a lot, even if they're not employed, they might find themselves that their daily routines are becoming, or daily errands that they have to run can become a lot more. Sometimes people can even turn a bit workaholic when Saturn is in the 6th house, because they're giving priority to dealing with the material realities around, and to work, to duties, to responsibilities. I've seen even stay-at-home moms that they say that their responsibilities become a bit too much when Saturn is in the 6th house. But they also say that during that period they learn to organize their routines much more efficiently. So if you're someone who is already employed, you can notice yourself that you're realizing that working hard, sometimes it's, instead of working hard only, you have to learn work smart. So that can be a period during which you make your work processes more efficient, organize your business or your workplace more efficiently, so you do half as much work but get half as much time working but get twice as much done, so to speak. Maybe automate something, or such kind of things can be happening over the next 2-3 years. On another level, it can indicate that especially if because for the last 12 years Neptune has been in your 6th house since 2012, and I don't have Neptune here, but just imagine, since 2012 Neptune's been transiting your 6th house of daily routines, organization, healthy habits. And Neptune can make a mess out of things, because the 6th house is very material house, where you need to be on top of things, you need to keep schedules, be organized. Well, with Neptune there, maybe in the last 12 years, maybe not all the time, for some of you more recent years, depends if you're later born Libras or early born, but maybe there was a bit more chaos in your everyday routines. Maybe it was harder for you to keep a strict plan, organization, like wake up at the same time, go to work, do your exercises, like eat healthy and so on. I'm not saying that all Libras couldn't do that, of course that's ridiculous, but maybe Neptune was dissolving those efforts, or making you not be as, let's say, disciplined. Well, Saturn is coming to fix the mess that Neptune left. And Neptune in the 6th house can sometimes even incline people to more bohemian lifestyle habits, daily habits, maybe like self-medicating, using substances, and so on. And even escaping responsibility to some extent, and being less organized than normal in their life. Well, Saturn now comes, and for the next 2-3 years says, I'm gonna fix that mess. So you will feel an inner impulse or an outer compulsion. Some circumstances might compel you to get yourself in order, to organize yourself, to become more on top of your health habits, to become more on top of your work, to become more responsible with your duties and responsibilities, and to become more organized, even to have your house cleaner or your space around you more arranged. And actually, if you speak with a few Virgos or Virgo rising people, if you know, because they just went through Saturn in their 6th house, I've been speaking, like I went the other day to the hairdresser, and I'm like, wow, you've lost a lot of weight. And she says, well, yeah. She says, I don't know what happened, but suddenly I'm working out 6 times per week, 5 times, I'm lifting weights, And it happened just so naturally. At first it was hard, but now I think I'll keep it for life. And I said, are you Virgo? And she said, no, I'm Virgo rising. So I know that a lot of Virgos went through, like my sister-in-law had Saturn in her 6th house, and she stopped drinking, she started working out. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to really organize yourself with those habits and routines that help you maintain your body and help you be more efficient, more organized in your everyday life. So healthier habits with your body, healthier habits and routines with your work. But coming back to work, sometimes when Saturn transits your 6th house, if you're in the, it can make you work very hard for periods of times, especially if you're in the right field of career. You'd have more responsibilities, more duties. You'd kind of maybe focus for a long time on, for those 2-3 years, on work hard, you know, so you can, I don't know, fulfill certain material goals of yours. Is it for money, or is it just, you know, to reach certain position? But if you're not in the right field, you might find yourself that you get more disappointed with your career. Maybe the circumstances at your work become more limited, or more, there's more pressure on you. Like my sister-in-law, it was a nurse, Saturn transiting her 6th house. COVID happened, and she said like they were overwhelmed with work, so she had to learn to be more organized and so on, and had to work extra hours than other times. And so I'm not saying this will happen the same way for you, but in, you know, translate it to your life in some different way. And so, but you will, if you're not in the right line of work, you'd start noticing that you're either dissatisfied with the work you do, the circumstances will become less in your work environment, more hostile, or more, let's say, more demanding, less grateful. And that can be a push for you to change your workplace, or to change the direction, to rethink your career, even stop for a little bit to work and slow down and rethink during that period, what is the right direction, which field should I go in, or maybe different company, or if you have your own business, maybe you have to change your, I don't know, kind of the administrative structure and so on, the process of working around you. So these will be topics that will be occupying you for the next 2-3 years. But as I said, great opportunity to change your health habits. And by the way, if you're, sometimes Saturn can push you in that direction because you notice more serious health effects, because Saturn can trigger some, especially more chronic health conditions, and it can make a certain situation, especially health or mental or physical health situation, unbearable to the level that you really stop a certain bad habit, or change your eating habits, or start working out, something on those lines. Expect. So that's the good thing, you know. And Saturn is a hard worker. 6th house is the house of hard work. So you would not be afraid of that, let's say, for the next 2-3 years. You can become very serious, or find what kind of job you do. You can, for some people, if they have their own business, might be like maybe making it a bit smaller but more efficient. You know, these are the lines of Saturn. Wants to streamline, to make more elegant the process of work, and to make more, I don't know, to simplify it, you know. And on the field of health, again, sometimes people, I've seen people get obsessed with health when Saturn is in the 6th house. But if you're in any 6th house careers, like if you're in health industry, social care services, military, police, or medical services, or healing of any sort, your workload can increase, and you can be given with more seniority and more authority. You can be given more responsibilities there of any sorts. But for everyone, I think Saturn in the 6th house is very well, you know, focused. It's very material for next 2-3 years. You become more organized, habits, routines, and so on. And that's very important for longevity, for health overall, and for happiness in the long term. All right. So another important event is that Pluto is moving into your, it's moving out on March 23rd from your 4th house of family, where it's been for the last 14 years. So maybe big, huge transformations happen for Libra, especially Libra rising on the family front. Some settled, some divorced, some got married, some had children, type of things, you know, their personal life. Like my husband is Libra rising when Pluto was right on his 4th house cusp. Baby 1, baby 2, new house, mother-in-law living with us, so big family changes. Well, now it's moving out of there. And if you want to hear what Pluto in the 4th house has been doing for the last 14 years and the evolutionary lessons that you learned and that you've been through and the purpose of all those events that happened for you, watch the next sign video, watch Scorpio, where I speak about Pluto in the 4th house and what they can expect, but you listen to it as something that you've already been going through and that yourself has evolved through. But Pluto will be changing signs. It will stay in Aquarius just for a couple of months till June, but because it's its first ingress, usually it's into the sign, it indicates some important events that start happening, like a symbolic event that will show you the direction for the next 20 years, because Pluto will be in Aquarius till 2044. And why is Pluto so important, even though everyone says it's not even a planet, you can't see it? Well, astrologers have been testing and seeing that, and psychics as well, that Pluto is the evolutionary goal of the soul, the evolution of the soul as the last planet in our solar system. And that it's, even though it's invisible, it's mighty, mighty planet. And actually past life regressions always indicate that the position of Pluto corresponds to past lifetimes, so the evolution of the soul. So that's why it's so important. So all other events that will be happening in your life for the next 20 years, whether it's like whatever Saturn goes, Jupiter, getting, jobs changing, people being born, dying, moving to different places to live, they all will serve the primary evolutionary goal of Pluto in your 5th house for the next 20 years, because they kind of filter through all the influences that's happening, all the events in your life always go to serve the evolution of the soul, which Pluto indicates what you'll be evolving in your soul for the next 20 years through all types of events that happen in your life. And Pluto just dips its toe for 2 months, then comes back to Capricorn till the end, so your 4th house till the end of 2023, and then comes back again into your 5th house to stay there for many, many years. So what will be the lessons? First of all, Pluto will empower Libras tremendously over the next 20 years. It might not happen overnight. It's a very long psychological process. It takes about, exactly about 2 years for the exact aspect of Pluto. So if you're early degree Libras, the first 1-2 degrees, for the next 2 years this deep transformation will happen. If you're later degrees Libra, it will happen maybe in 15, or depends how late degree Libra you are, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, that this empowerment, this amazing empowerment will happen for you in a non-crisis way, though, with Pluto, because it's a trine. Big life change, but that makes you transform your psychology to feel more powerful, to feel more wholesome, so to speak, and to be on the right path. But to know exactly which year it will happen for you, maybe you can attend my webinar Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. And it will show you exactly the degrees year by year, so you'll know exactly when it will happen for you and what will happen, because I'll speak about the different aspects, maybe to other planets in your horoscope and so on. But Pluto in the 5th house, the evolutionary goal is that this is one of the self houses. So it will be about exploration of the self. It will be about passionate deep diving into your natural talents. And maybe for some of you, even if you're in your 70s, when Pluto enters your 5th house, you might discover talents that you are not aware of. You might discover natural passions and interests and inclinations that maybe that you awaken from past lifetimes, because Pluto is a little bit about digging out from from the past lifetimes that you naturally manifest in this lifetime, and you can turn them into a pivotal focus, even into a career. And it will be about exploring your passions. It will be exploring what you are naturally good at. And maybe some of you might develop hobbies or fascinating activities that you get lost on for hours and hours and months. These are the house of hobbies, so to speak. I don't think these are just hobbies that you waste time with, like watching TV. Like some people say, oh, that's my hobby. No, this is something that you pour your soul into as well. This is something that you actively participate in co-creating. So these are something that you creatively involved with. So you might discover an incredible creative talent, I don't know, for theater or for stock markets or for public speaking, you know. And it also, whatever this talent is, you can transform society through it over the next 20 years. You can impact society in a big way. Pluto in Aquarius will be changing the whole of society in such a huge way that hasn't happened since the French Revolution and hasn't happened since the American Revolution. So imagine everyone will have to contribute in some way, and you as Libras will contribute through your children, maybe, because fifth house rules your children. You can empower your children in some way. You can become obsessed with taking your children to maybe even a bit interfering, helicopter mom, all that. But your children can change in a huge way for the next 20 years. But you can also impact the world through your own creative inputs. And you can, something like a hobby, some invention. The 8th house is the most inventive, creative house. Something that is your own art, something that you have knowledge about, that you're talented about. So you're kind of blessed because the things that you really love to do, you're natural at, you can transform the world through them. And if you're already in some industry that is like entertainment, like creative, you might become famous, and you can have a big impact with your work over the next 20 years. If you know, it doesn't mean every Libra will become famous, of course, but it can mean that you discover something that empowers you. You discover some fun or some really life-enhancing activities that you unfold, and many new passions that you explore. And speaking about passions, 5th house is also about the love life of a person, and you deep dive to explore love for many of you. Even if you're later age, Pluto will reverse. Maybe you haven't been in a relationship for a while. Pluto enters your 5th house, especially when it transits the 5th house cusp or the same degree from your Ascendant, Sun or Moon. That's when it can happen. But again, for this, you need to know your degree and which year Pluto will be there exactly. But that can be like a transformational romantic relationship that, wow, that you kind of changes you so much. And there might be some romantic relationships, some in more extreme cases, that really presses your buttons. There is some kind of a soul connection there, or something that is a bit more hidden, that is a bit my husband, let's see. I'll watch him closely. But the thing is that the evolution of the soul can come to you through a love romantic relationship, and sometimes they're not easy lessons. Sometimes can be romantic relationships that involves, you know, extreme experiences of any sorts, and exploring taboo topics and topics of abuse and topics of betrayal. But on the highest scale, it can also, because it's very long, many years transit, it can indicate really attracting a soulmate, very deeply sexually healing relationships of some sort, or experience as well. And if you're already married, it can make you transform. I'm just saying this for my personal calming of the mind, makes you transform your romantic life. And because you become very focused on those experiences of pleasure, entertainment, even the act of sex as enjoyment is the 5th house. It can indicate some big transformation there, or some big lessons to learn and some big change that you're willing to do to change this the situation there. And especially since Saturn was in your 5th house for a few years, maybe it's a bit of a desert day in the romantic sphere, and now you passionately dive into explore this area of your life. And again, it's also hobbies and passions and so on. On another level, I spoke about children, but it's also one of the houses of pregnancy. Some people might even have pregnancies. Well, it's a 20-year period, of course, but exactly when Pluto transits. because Pluto is a fertile planet, and even if you're someone who weren't able to be fertile, Pluto can trigger this for you. Of course, it's also children. There can be some power struggles with children. Depends what transits Pluto is making aspect from your 5th house. If you have a lot of planets in Taurus or Leo or Scorpio, there might be kind of clashes or some more crisis situations happening with your children or in your romantic love life through the more extremes manifestations of Pluto. Of course, we'll find this out through my webinar if your Pluto is making any aspects and through that 5th house and what it will mean for you. But if it's making good aspects, very empowering romantic relationships, very empowering close bonds with children. Children can be the transformative force in your life. And if it's hard aspects, as I said, some power clashes there can happen, some more crisis situation that you have to overcome in some way. But again, they will transform you because this is one of the self houses. They will transform your self-expression. And if you've been someone who is afraid or who is more like a shy person, Pluto there in the 5th house can push your boundaries to put yourself out in the center of things. If you've been trying to be at the trying to avoid center stage positions, Pluto can push you to transform all of that and to change that. It's a long process, but it's interesting to see what will happen. And actually, if you want to find out more about Pluto in the 5th house, which is empowering in aspect to Aquarius, to Libra, it's going to be very helpful as well. If there is Libra's Sun, Libra Sun, whatever, it can empower your career and really make some tremendous positive developments there for the next 20 years. If it's your Ascendant, then even your physical body and health can be empowered and your role in society. If it's your moon, your home and personal life. If it's your moon in Libra, your home or personal life, and so on. But you can find out more about that with my video on 2023 for Libra, which is 2.5-3 hours. And I speak way more in depth about Saturn and Pluto in your 5th and your 6th house and all the other influences this year. And then specifically this month, definitely the Sun is also going to be in the 6th house. So it's only short influence, but there is focus of possibility of renewal in regards to work, exercise, new developments there, positive, powerful, important developments with your health, with your work, that you can start of any sort. And Jupiter and Venus at the very start of the month meet together in your 7th house. So for some of you Libras, these are the two benefics. These are two planets that give things with ease, wonderfully easy. For some of you that are single, you can meet someone that is relationship material, that is like good karma for you. For others, it can mean that you have some positive experiences in March with your partner, that your partner is on a roll, so to speak, that your partner experiences some positive events in their life, or maybe something new is introduced to you through another person thanks to this positive great conjunction in your 7th house of other people. So if someone reach out to you for collaboration or with an idea, be open to it because something good and like a blessing is coming to you from others. Or maybe you reach out to another to ask for help. Maybe you ask the advice of a consultant, you ask the advice of a professional to help you with something. You'd find the right lawyer, or you'd find the right someone to help you buy or sell property. So combine with others, collaborate with another, ask for counseling or advice, and you can have great results in some way. That's what Jupiter and Venus are helping you with in March. And the last but not least is that Mars is finally going to leave your 9th house. It's been there since since August 2020. It went retrograde for a little bit. So and it's there the whole month, but it leaves towards the end of the month. So if there's been any complications or stresses with legal matters, with papers and documents, or with anything to do with legalizing foreign residence or whatever, any problems like that just fall off. They disappear, they're resolved. If there was any problems to do with higher education, with foreign travel, with anything to do with faraway places. These things also go away, they're solved. And at the end of the month, Mars will move into your 10th house, so you'll be much more focused on career matters, and your actions will be more like impactful. Bam, bam, bam. You'll be getting things done more. But I think Mars was very helpful for Libra. I probably, hopefully, didn't do much damage over the last 6 months, but it's now moving that area of your life. So thank you so much, Libras, and have a very insightful March 2023, because usually when a planet changes sign, from the beginning you're given some clues about what's to happen for the years this planet will stay in that sign. Thank you.